talking about the challenging landscape of economic incentives. And then our September 20th is going to be our first live and in-person event together. We're going to mix up some baseball and some all-star corporate real estate learning opportunities. So we hope that you can make your calendars available to join us for that. And then we've also got our October Cornet Coffee Chat content framed up with MCOR for October 13th. So look for those things. And if you're not already registered for the summit, we would love to see you there in Seattle. And with that, I will turn it over to Cynthia, who is joined by a peer of hers. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and our content.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I'm Cynthia Wren, and I'm the Director of Facilities for 8451. I oversee facilities and real estate across our portfolio. And I'm here today with Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Like. I am actually part of the HR team at 8451, focused in on talent. But I have the luxury and the honor,
unique privilege
of leading our what we're calling our transition to hybrid. All things kind of thinking about returning to work and how we're going to kind of evolve as an organization to meet the new needs that exist out there in the market.
So what we have called our transition to hybrid and our return to office is enabling an environment of flexibility. And Stephanie's going to talk through a little bit about how that came together and what it means. We make up, both Stephanie and I sit on a cross-functional team with other areas of the business, including tech, talent, HR, help me out with other facilities.
Facilities. And then we have just kind of some, what we were kind of calling like voice of the associate. So we have a few associates who sit on that with us as well.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move forward. Let me see. Okay.
There we go. All right. So, what you're seeing here is kind of our overall business strategy for, the kind of the long range plan, but also kind of the immediate future. So along the bottom there, you actually see some of the different goals that we have as an organization. And the reason we're showing this is just to show that the initiative around the transition to a hybrid workplace model actually sits within our enterprise outcomes and key results down on the right-hand side, and supercharge our culture to thrive. It's really about, how can we evolve to ensure that our culture is continuing to thrive and really amplify our organization and what we're trying to achieve. And so this actually, it started as an initiative that was called Workforce of the Future that, actually had kind of been on our roadmap and, from a strategy perspective prior to COVID. It sort of arose late 2019, early 2020, because it was this kind of just buzzword in the industry was this workforce of the future. There's new trends coming. There's going to be a desire for increased flexibility. There's going to be this desire to break out of the traditional, full-time employee model and go into gig work and contractors and, all of these, there were several different trends that fall within that idea of workforce of the future. And so COVID hit and it suddenly sped up some of these different things, especially the whole concept around flexibility, because, as we all kind of left our headquarter offices and went home thinking it was going to be a couple weeks. And then we thought it's going to be a couple months. And, I don't think any of us really thought it was going to be a year and a half later, but we were constantly kind of having to chase this target of like, okay, we know that we're going to be having to now come back at some point and people are expecting something different. So in March 2020, we really sped up our efforts at 8451, digging into this idea of how can we evolve what it looks like to have a flexible organization, different, working locations, are we going to allow people to work from home indefinitely? Are we going to require everybody to come back? And what does that look like? So we started in more of a research phase of digging into that. And as we have, progressed through the pandemic, and really as we got closer to fall of 2020, we had people kind of, people in our organization kind of saying like, we want to start to mentally prepare for what's coming. Other organizations were starting to declare that, the office is gone, we're going to be fully remote forever. And others were saying, no, we have full intention to come back. And our associates were kind of looking at us to say like, well, what are we going to do? Because I'm wanting to start to make some decisions about my own career and what have you. And so that's when we actually split what was previously Workforce of the Future into these two paths here. Workforce of the Future, kind of maintaining that longer term vision around like the worker types and just kind of the overall talent mix within our organization, and what did we need, to be reaching those future state goals. But then said, we do have an immediate need to really be digging into this idea of flexibility and what does that look like and what are we going to do, and how, in our case, how does that work with Kroger and our partners and all of that. So we actually split up, and then created two different working groups so that we could speed up while also still maintaining a focus on kind of that longer term vision. Hence, enabling an environment of flexibility came to be, and really was focusing on that operational guidance, the planning for the post-pandemic workplace. That kind of was born, earlier this year, when we had we knew that there was a vaccine coming, and that ultimate, return to office was really much closer on the horizon than it had been. And so that's the work that Cindy and I have been focused on, is kind of thinking about what goes into enabling an environment of flexibility and getting us back. So, one of the first things that we really needed to do was to, understand what our partners were doing, and in particular, what Kroger was doing. We're a subsidiary of Kroger and work very, very closely with, the Kroger enterprise. And so wanted to make sure that we were going down a similar path. We share talent across the organization. It behooved us to be kind of in line with where they were headed. And so, this view is just a quick look at their guiding principles. And, that's something that we adopted as well. We kind of created our own guiding principles. 8451 does have a different culture than Kroger, and we are an independent business. While a subsidiary, we do function in our own ways a lot of times. And so wanted to have our own guiding principles, but those guiding principles, were built off of the Kroger approach, and then ultimately, helped us keep an eye on that North Star of like where we were headed, what were we wanting to preserve, what were we wanting to amplify, and how were we going to do that in a way that stayed true to, what our ultimate goal was as an organization. So where we landed, when we were thinking about flexibility and what that meant, we knew that there was this spectrum that we could land on. And we actually surveyed our associates earlier, or I guess at late 2020, like October or so, just to get a feel for like where people's heads were. Where were people wanting, hoping to, land after the pandemic when they were coming back? Were people wanting to be more office-based? Were people wanting to be able to do this kind of concept of work from anywhere? And it wasn't to say like, what do you want? We kind of have to phrase it carefully, but just to say like, we're just trying to understand where your head is so that we can do what we feel is best for the overall organization. And ultimately, I think it was about 60% of our organization wanted to be in this hybrid, so coming to the office 2 or 3 days a week. We do have a population, I think it was around 18% or so, that did have this desire to be fully remote, meaning that they were not coming to an office. They were coming to an office infrequently. And then we had people who did want to be, 100% office space. They hated working from home. So with that, we landed on this, we would give kind of more flexibility to be able to work outside the office up to 3 days a week. So asking that people come, to the office, and it's not even come to the office, but give face-to-face time. So that could be if you have a very heavy Kroger role where you're partnering with Kroger a lot, like that's your face-to-face time. We're not saying that, okay, for those 2 days that you're working over at Kroger, now you also have to come to the 8451 headquarters. It's about making sure that you're giving that face-to-face time in your role and making it, be about 40% or so of the time that you're spending in your role. And we've really emphasized that this is where we're starting. We've given this kind of 6-month period of like testing. So we're saying, you know, come September when we're returning or transitioning into this model, that we're gonna, you know, really take a look at it for 6 months. That's not to say it's 6 months that we're going to like throw it all out the window and start from scratch, but just to say like we'll pivot and adjust where we need to. You know, we're certainly keeping an eye on things like retention and, or I guess attrition, to see, you know, why, if people are leaving, why are they leaving? Is it because they want flexibility that we aren't offering? You know, how is it helping with our productivity? How are we tracking on reaching our, you know, OKRs for the year? Just all, you know, a variety of different kind of organizational health metrics to make sure that, you know, the direction we're headed isn't, you know, detrimental to the organization. So this view really just, you know, something that we've had challenge with, I'd say, is communicating to the organization like what this looks like and how it's going to be in practice. You know, a part of this is like we have to just get into it and try it, because there's certainly, I would say we have a very black and white organization where they're like, so does this mean I have to be in from 8 to 10 and then, you know, 1 to 3, and, you know, or do I have to be in the office for 2 full days? Like there's just a lot of these like very nuance based questions. And so we pulled this together to try and say, like, we're telling you, like, manage your time. Maybe you come in late, you know, like you start your morning at home and then you come in for afternoon meetings, or, you know, you're really holding to those core hours that we have of 10 to 3 because your commute's terrible if you're having to leave at 7 a.m. You know, we're really trying to say, like, manage your time. We trust you, but people are still a bit weary around like, well, is this going to impact my performance? Am I going to be judged if I'm not, you know, if I'm working from home 3 days a week? Does that mean people are going to think I'm not dedicated? So been working through some of those challenges. You know, and I mentioned that we do have some folks who are wanting to work from home and are challenging us on like, well, why are we going down this path? Why are we adopting a hybrid model? Because it is something that we're not just doing because, you know, we want to be archaic, but we actually believe that there are key activities or events that occur face-to-face and really thrive face-to-face. And that's where we pulled up these kind of, I would say, like there are 5 whys, if you will, of just different activities, events, you know, relationships, kind of relational things that happen in our organization and are one of the really core things around our culture and how we believe that we've succeeded over time. And it's not to say these things can't be done virtually or can't be done, you know, with part of the team from home and part of the team in the office, but that when you have more frequent in-person connection, these elements thrive. They're still more organic. They're a bit easier to do. And so that's really, you know, we landed on those 5 whys to kind of be the foundation for why we're going down this path. And the next couple slides just kind of, again, further outlines like what this is not and what this is, because we have a lot of people who are really trying to understand how this is going to work in practice. So emphasizing this is not about like clocking in and clocking out. This is about doing what's best for the work, doing what's best for you, and ultimately doing what's best for our customers or our clients. It's also not about sameness. You know, we're trying to emphasize that you and the person next to you, the way this looks for you might look different, and that could be because of your own personal preferences, but that could also be because your roles are different and your roles require different things. And you know, we really are looking at it at that role-based level. You know, we're, again, kind of to the clocking in and clocking out, we're really trying to emphasize that, you know, we're putting trust in our people, and we're not about like policing this. But with that, you know, just this kind of an honor system, like we do what's right and put in that face time. We also wanted to emphasize that this is not our final state. So we're going to continue to test and learn and grow along the way. And lastly, it's, you know, not about, we're trying not to emphasize that this is about the office, but that it's really about those live in-person interactions, and making sure that you're that we're adjusting kind of the way we think about how we get our work done and practices for those different elements, and that it's not just about coming to the office to, put your butt in a seat, and it's about the interactions. So we've really emphasized, please be agile. Certainly a difficult thing to do through change. We've heard the growing pains from our organization for sure, but we just keep reiterating, this isn't forever. This is a starting point. Please give us feedback, and please lean in and kind of try to go with the flow as much as you can, because we don't have a crystal ball and we don't know exactly what this is going to look like in the end. So, to go with that. So really, just to kind of recap what we talked about, this is enabling an environment of flexibility is the work stream that we're focused on here. It's about adopting a hybrid workplace. We're encouraging our people to work with their people leader to kind of think about what is their time, in person or in office going to look like. And that's also, our business leaders are working on that as well. We're planning to transition starting in September. And then we do have several pilots currently going on. We've had those since May of folks who are actually already in our offices, helping us start to test and learn some of these things early and being those early adopters. So I'll transition it over to Cynthia, and she'll talk a bit about, where we are now and kind of what's coming down the pipe for us in the immediate future.
Okay, so right now we have already had our associates connect with their people leaders, and they've discussed what their future is going to look like. We recently sent out a survey that was due back June 30th that asked associates to determine if they wanted a 2-day-a-week high level in-office schedule or if they wanted 3+. We actually gave 3 options. So we had a 2-day-a-week, which would automatically be hotel desking. And then we had a 3+ days a week where you could have an assigned desk, and a 3+ days a week where you could use a hotel desk. Our breakout ended up being about 30% of our people in assigned desking and then 70% in hotel desking. We implemented that survey using ServiceNow so that we could have an ongoing record, also a way for new hires to opt in. We could identify people's selections by user ID, which would allow us to export and pull into other worksheets, et cetera, that we were using. So it's something that can live on beyond just this moment in time. We are working on a restack in our Cincinnati and Chicago workspace. So we really, over the past 18 months, a lot has changed about our organization, and we usually do a restack in our office buildings as teams grow and shrink to make sure that we have the right space allocated to each team. So we're taking the time right now to do that. And at the same time, we're working through assigned and hotel desking co-location for teams. We're also doing a massive building clean out. So any associates that declared 2 days a week, which you can see is almost 70%, are coming in literally right now, and they're purging all of their items. We have 100, spots for 100 people to come in a day. They're purging all of their items and taking everything home so that they're prepared when it comes time for them to begin using hotel desking. We also rolled out new parking options. Parking is a big issue for us. We're in an environment that's pay for parking. So we used to have the option of 5 days a week or 7 days a week in the garage where we sit our space. We added a pay per use, which is a discounted rate, still connected to a fob where associates can just pay as they use parking. And we have that at 2 separate garages. One is our garage below our office space, and one is a little bit further away, and they have different rates so the associates can choose what they think works best for them. And this has been really well received by our associates. And then we continue to develop resources for associates and people leaders that help them understand how to manage people and work in a hybrid environment. So that is basically what we have to share. I know we have a few minutes for questions, and we'd love to open it up to anyone's questions.
How many people do you have at your facility in Cincinnati and then the one in Chicago? So, each one.
So in Chicago, we have around 125 people. In Cincinnati, we have, I was just looking at these numbers yesterday, so it's 1088 associates that are 8451 associates. We have additional contingent workers beyond that, but it's a little bit over 1,000 people.
Wow.
So it's a lot of folks that are doing clean outs right now. Over 700 associates that are coming in to purge their desks. And the one thing that has been surprising to me, it's probably really not that surprising if you think about it, is just the amount of hand holding and the way that we're all needing to learn how to adult and work again. There's so many questions about when you say, I need to clean out everything from my desk. Does that mean everything or just most things? So we're working through that on a case-by-case basis and helping people along this change curve of, trying to get to where we're going.
I'm sure they've lived in that space for how many years, and now you're telling them to, take it all away. There is a question in the chat. How will people pick hotel desks and find their daily assigned desk?
So we're working on that right now. We hope that we're going to be able to have a hotel desk reservation system, but that's fluid as we try and figure that out. So right now, the overall plan is that every area of the business has both assigned and hotel desks associated with that team. So the assigned desks will be fixed, and then hotel workers can come in and infill around that area. Hopefully we'll have a reservation system in place. We also have large areas that we're setting up as pure hoteling. So if you're coming into the office for meetings and you don't have a need to go sit with a team, you could go to one of the hoteling areas, drop your stuff, go to meetings, work from there a little bit and head home. That's what we've got so far.
And is your hoteling space, do you have offices as an option, or is it just open workspace?
We don't have any offices within our building. We're 100% bench desking. So everyone sits at a 6-foot bench from our CEO to our co-ops. We've always had that strategy, which, is really makes things very equal across the board and makes it really easy for us to allocate these as hotel desks and these as assigned desks. So no offices. We do have 100 privacy booths within our office, which are small rooms where individuals can hunker down if they need heads down time or quiet. So all of our associates are welcome to those. They're not reservable. They're first come, first serve. So we have that option. We also have, any number of team rooms and conference rooms that people can use as well. At any given time, we have 3 different places where people can sit in the building outside of their desk. So we feel like we have a lot of options.
So what is your ratio of huddle rooms to cubicle space? You have 100 huddle rooms. How many cubes?
We have, it's about 10%. So we 10%. Have, yeah.
Thanks.
Couple more questions in the room. Do you have any new amenities planned to make the workplace a more attractive option to pick over remote work?
Oh, that's such a great question. We don't necessarily have new amenities, but we have a lot of amenities already that we're ramping back up as we open the office in full. So we have an on-site cafe, and that will be, back up and running. It's already partially in operation, but we'll restaff to our pre-COVID max. We have an office coffee services program with a coffee porter that distributes coffee all around the building. So that will be up and running. We have a wellness center, and in the wellness center we have fitness classes. The wellness center is free of charge to our associates. The fitness classes have been offered virtually throughout the pandemic, but we will have them back in person and live. And I think we're going to do some blend of some virtual and some live classes. We have a physical therapist that is in the wellness center, as well as a massage therapist. So both of those roles will be coming on site. So those are great options for our associates to get the care that they need while they're here working. It's very convenient to have the physical therapist on site, which we've had decently high engagement of. And then we do a lot of different activities that I think are team building, collaborative activities, and I imagine that we'll continue to do those. So I know upcoming we have a Namaste and Rosé event planned, which is a little bit of yoga and a little bit of a happy hour. We've done different breakfasts. We've had ice cream socials. So a lot of different things to kind of bring people together. We've challenged ourselves during the pilots to find COVID-friendly ways to do those kinds of things. So all prepackaged items and, you know, plenty of distance. A lot of people come up and grab and go, but we've tried to continue to foster that spirit of community while we've been transitioning out of the pandemic. I'm trying to think of can you think of other great amenities we have? We've got red bike passes.
Yeah,
we
we
have
have red bike passes. You know, I think the biggest thing that we're trying to encourage people to remember is that there's a lot of people they haven't had an opportunity to connect with outside of their immediate circle, and that's part of what we're trying to reinvigorate in the organization. And so, you know, whether that's not an amenity per se, but you know, that's part of kind of the byproduct of leveraging the office space or that together space. And we're really trying to kind of get people excited about that again. I think a lot of people over the last year have really thought like, oh, well, this has worked. And we're trying to remind them that that's on borrowed currency. You know, that's social currency that you had. We've added, you know, 200 people over the last 15, 16 months that don't have that. So let's, for the greater good, you know, start to rebuild that across the organization. So, you know, we've done, I think, you know, where Cynthia's headed, like we're trying to do some of these different activities and encouraging our teams to plan different things as well, so that they can think about how they're kind of rebuilding those relationships in some of these cross-functional teams that we have.
We do have another question in the chat. Are employees concerned with safety, air quality, and cleaning protocols in the future?
Yes, we have heard feedback on that, and we've worked to bring over 200 people in 4 different pilots since May. We've done a lot of work in our facility, you know, from the beginning last spring in 2020, just to upgrade our cleaning processes, put new, you know, features in place that make things more hands-free or more sanitary. Yeah, it's something that we hear. We feel like we've addressed things pretty well. And for the most part, we've surveyed folks that have come back in the pilot and asked, like, what do you feel comfortable this week? How safe and healthy are you feeling the office environment is? And we've gotten really positive responses back. I think the fact that even though we sit at bench desking, it's 6 foot long bench desking, so that already had a little bit of a distance in it, helped people feel more comfortable. Where we're, you know, if we were smaller and closer together, it might be a little bit different, but yeah, we're feeling pretty good about it.
I just wanted to compliment you guys. I love the way that you framed up the 5 whys, and then your follow-up, this is not, and this is, because I think it just, like, you're just reading their minds, because that is the way people think, the why and the, you know, what it is and what it isn't. I've been through a lot of these, a lot of companies talking about their hybrid, and I feel like you guys have done a super effective job of kind of capturing that in a really concise way, and I'm totally gonna hijack it.
Please do.
Feel free.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we're at time. I appreciate you being, you know, listening to our story and the opportunity to share.
Thank you both, Stephanie and Cynthia. We appreciate you, and thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.